0.
Hello everybody, it's Glitch Reaper here. I realize I need to be a little more coherent on how I'm explaining things, so I'd like to show off more of how Botania's mana system works, among a few other things. Now, I do have another plan I'd like to get going, because I have a dragon egg. Yes, this mod pack has dragon mounts. So I want to prepare for the hatching ceremony, preferably off camera. But for right now, I'd like to show more how this works. Now, you see here, you don't see any visual effects happening, so you may just see this collection of blocks and this strange phenomenon where the water seems to be devouring itself periodically. This strange-looking block here with these flying cubes. But this is actually all part of how Botania works. And the coolest thing is, it actually minimizes how much drag is on the system, because only its users will see the visual effects usually. You have to be holding one of these to see the most of it. Like now, you see the beams coming into this. This is what you call a mana pool. This is how you collect your energy. And it doesn't have exact numbers and stuff, and whenever you click on various things with mana, it will show you like how much is in them. It will show you things like if they're giving mana to items or not. Like this is saying sparing mana to items. That's very hard to see even if you're right next to the screen, so yeah, you may need to stare very closely. Now, the thing is, most of the energy in Botania comes from flowers in different ways, and these have to be made in that little thing that I have on the top of my roof. It's called a petal apothecary, and this is used for making flowers. I also have one in the house, but I thought it looked like a really good chimney. I mean, dang, that thing looks cool. Now, whenever you make these special flowers, there's some that are more introductory, like these nightshades, which only work at night, and these day blooms that only work during the day. They don't require any of what you call mana petals, and that's when you throw the petals that you get from these mystical flowers, and you put them into one of these pools. Now, the thing about these pools is they can transmute items in certain ways or empower them, but at first you have to have at least 2, because you have to use one to make another one better, so you can actually use it to do that with other things. So it's not exactly a chicken and the egg thing, so know that you can actually get this started up to do those stuff. It just takes at least 2. So that's a very important thing to remember, is you're going to need a lot of what this is called living rock. Living rock is made like sort of how I showed before with the pure daisy, only you put stone around it instead of wooden logs, and it's becoming night. Pardon me while I take a brief snooze. I know I said earlier that I was concerned about the whole bed situation, but I found out that if you have the right tools to harvest the blocks, it doesn't matter as much. So it's not as big of a deal, and I can pass night because it's better to show this mana system off during the day. Huh. On 2. I mean, I'm the only one on, so this really helps. Because otherwise, well, some people may want the night, because that is the good thing right now, is we are trying to hunt Endermen down. They are... those position things. I think I just got a rock overhead. Never mind. My fault. I think I did that fast enough where mobs will not be interrupting me like they were on my first day. Gosh, I had so many skeletons. But yeah, these are various flowers for producing mana. This is very, very necessary. This is what you call a mana spreader. It takes the mana from various sources and sends it to things, like these mana pools. Now, in the book, it mentions things about how the mana spreader works, and this takes some of that living wood, and it takes some gold and any of these little mystical petals. You don't have to power them up, because obviously that's what you're trying to get a hold of. But the thing is, this wand of the forest, which is made with using living wood to make these living twigs, or living wood twigs. Now, that actually takes 2 living wood per twig. It's not like regular vanilla where you have like a couple of planks and you get like 4 sticks. So, yeah, that's not exactly the best conversion, so you're going to have to chop a lot of trees. But what this does, is it lets you see things, and it also lets you rotate blocks and do various operations. Like, I can change where this thing is aiming with this by, like, shift right clicking. Well, it's in what you call bind mode. Now, if you do this in mid-air, it will say which mode it's in, function mode or bind mode. and whenever you bind, you link things together. So it also acts sort of like a wrench from several mods, like the Railcraft wrench that lets you link different minecarts together. So this is sort of like a Magitech type thing. Right now I'm mainly just feeling this pull. And one thing I can do, you may notice I have a few interesting items here. Didn't throw that far enough. Is I can let this pull grant energy to this little thing here, and this is what you call a mana tablet. It will never ever despawn, no matter how long it's been in the world. It's still just as vulnerable as a regular dropped item though, so you may want to be careful with that, because this acts like a portable battery for some of your stuff. Like I have this blue armor on right now. This is called Mana Steel. It's made by throwing iron ingots into these pools whenever they have power. And man, this thing's probably going to be really charged this time. I don't know how much it actually contains because this mod is not about numbers. It does not tell you exact figures, so, and that's part of the point, is that it's like all sort of smooth. But the thing is that this can contain a large amount as far as I can tell, because I know it hasn't gone down that much whenever I've actually used it. At the same time, I haven't exactly been able to really use it that much, because the thing is that it acts like a battery for certain things, like Mana Steel. Anytime you use anything made from Mana Steel, instead of taking durability damage itself, it takes some energy off of this. So it's sort of like taking durability off of this to grant it to this stuff. Now, that is a pretty cool feature, that you can basically keep your stuff just about forever as long as you have power. So it's sort of like the various electricity and redstone flux using mods to do that, where you use up power instead of durability. Okay, I think that is empty, so. Now that can continuously charge while you've got it on top there. You don't have to worry about it actually having a pool in it. Now this thing is how you get some other stuff. I am wondering exactly how I activated it in the first place, but I did get it to work. Apparently you have to throw something on top of it when everything else has to be clicked on, so it's a bit different. They weren't entirely as clear when they said throw something on top of it, or drop it on top, I should say. If they'd said throw, I probably would have got it better first. Now there's different types of flowers here for mana production, like the day blooms and the night blooms I mentioned before. They're pretty introductory, so they don't need any special petals. Now this book you can just hit the back button, but this is under generator flora. Like the recipe for the day bloom involves... Did a creeper sneak up on me? What happened? I didn't even take damage. What was that?
I think a creeper was in the water.
Yeah. The thing is, I can't really look at that map at the same time I'm using this book. Okay, going in for a moment. Getting safer. I can read this book anywhere, so it's exactly picky about that. But you need some orange, some yellow, and some light blue of those petals, and this is from those little mystical flowers you find everywhere. And I mentioned before that you can use that special fertilizer to get more, so that makes things nice. Now that thing you saw around there was these blue flowers with that water. Now what their special ability is they absorb water from water pools that are on their same level. So you sort of have to create a blockade to work it, because it's not like you can make the pool recessed. That would be nice. Now this does, however, require a few of those mana petals, so you have to have a little bit going from all those other blooms first. So you have to already have at least some tanked up first. Another one I have in there is called an Endoflame. These burn any combustible fuel. They also require some mana pills, so they're not your introductory flower, but they produce a good amount as long as you're willing to burn extra fuel off, like coal and stuff. So they just, you gotta feed the flowers. Now, one thing I made that was this really high-ranked flower, or not necessarily the most, is called the Rosa Arcana. This thing will eat your levels. But in exchange, it will give you a lot of mana, and very quickly. Now, this is where that runic altar comes in, because this little thing I'm trying to hold the arrow on here is called a rune of mana, and the runes are made in that altar. And you can see it requires a variety of petals too, but you can actually shift and then click on this to get various things. Like, this is how you make the rune of mana. You have to have this runic altar set up, and this one in specific requires 5 of these mana steel ingots and a mana pearl. These are all made very similarly to to dropping things in that little pool to transmute them. Now, the mana pearls are made with ender pearls, and that's sort of in short supply. We're working on it. We're all trying to get to the end here. That would be very, very cool if we did. I can show how this works, because I happen to have a few spare pieces of metal lying around. Got this in my miner's pack. A nice, interesting thought. The mana steel ingots are compatible with your miner's pack from forestry for some weird reason. I could definitely use a few more of these. Now, if you are holding on to the item in hand, and you stare at this pool, it will tell you whether or not it has enough power for it. Like right now, it's got an X over the arrow, and there's a little icon here you may or may not be able to see, but it has the iron ingot with this arrow pointing towards the blue ingot, which is the mana steel. So that's sort of how you make that stuff, and it takes a good amount to make this whole armor. You may have spotted I have a lot of diamonds. That was from a bit of a treasure deal, and maybe more on that later. But anyhow, I currently have only 3 day blooms and 3 nightshades, and 3 of these Indo flames that eat coal here, situated around it so that it has a sort of a semicircle of activity, but it's also within range of these. And there's an interesting way of telling that. Whenever you do this bind mode thing, just a moment, then it'll basically create this outline around it and this block shape, not necessarily the whole block, and you'll see a slight streak. That'll say that it's in range and able to provide its power to this block. Now, they will automatically sort of link up to a degree whenever you place them, but if you want to make something more specific, you do that. Also, if you want to make sure you have your setup right, you can just force it later by clicking around with this magic stick. I like this stick, it really helps. So, it's a very good tool.